The shepherds that kept their flocks just outside of Bethlehem, according to Jewish tradition, watched over special flocks that provided the lambs for the temple sacrifices. Worth noting also is that shepherds were fitted to be told first because Jesus was to be known as the Good Shepherd, who himself would become the sacrificial lamb. All the patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and so on, were shepherds. And don't forget that King David was a shepherd in his youth. As they hurried into town, the words of the angels guided them. They had been told to look for a particular sign. They would find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. Well, that last little detail was one that made absolutely sure that they couldn't possibly mistake some other baby for the one they were looking for. No other newborn baby in the entire country would be laid in a cattle feeding trough, which was only found in a cattle stall or animal corral. And that ruled out having to look in all the houses and inns, which were full of people. No, it narrowed it down to the stables and sheds. The Lord made it easy for them to find the Holy Family and to know the infant Savior when they found him. When they came to a cattle stall that was occupied by people, they felt they were on the right track. Gathered around the entrance, they deluged poor Joseph with questions. Now, Joseph had determined to take care of Mary and the baby. And he wasn't about to let a band of shepherds pile in the stall with a new mother and child. He was about to lay hands on the leader and help him out when they slowed down and explained that an angel had told them to come. Well, that made a difference. Joseph knew that when an angel told you something, you obeyed. And he could hardly keep them out. Permitting them in, they beheld what the heavenly visitor had told them to look for. A baby, laid in a manger, wrapped in swaddling clothes. Now, there had been plenty of babies born that were unusual in some way, and many were destined to live great lives. But none had been born like this one. This was God incarnate, who had always existed. And now, he was born in a human body for the express purpose of dying for the sins of all mankind. This tiny baby would grow up to be the good shepherd who laid down his life for his sheep. As they looked on his face, they realized that for the first time, God was now part of the kinship of mankind, and was the only one that could bring man into kinship with God. The shepherds, bowing before the baby and offering their worship, were the first of those who would bow the knee before him. But little did they realize that one day every knee would bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. When the band of men had seen the babe and felt they should go for Mary's sake, they reluctantly withdrew from the stable. Once outside, they all seemed to be talking at once. Foremost on their minds was what to do next. Surely spreading the word about what they had seen and heard would be the best thing. But who should they start with? The priest in town? Should they go to Jerusalem and proclaim it to temple worshippers? How about the king? Herod should know about the birth of a new king. But how would he accept it? The thought of bearing such news to Herod caused them to think again. He would not be happy to hear about anyone that might threaten his rule and might try to silence them. Would anyone believe they had been told such important news and not the religious leaders? They would be ridiculed and thrown out as insulting the priest by even suggesting such a thing. Eventually, they settled for telling anyone they came into contact with, and headed back to their flocks with joy in their hearts. On the way out of town, they encountered some people, and they shared the exciting news, even telling them where to find the child. But curious as it all sounded, no one bothered to go see for themselves. It was too hard to believe. But Mary, thinking about the visit by the shepherds, considered that it was just one more strange and miraculous event in a life that had been full of them since being visited by the angel herself nearly 9 months before. She had a feeling, as she looked at the newborn, that as he got older, there would be many more wonderful miracles. Perhaps one day she would be able to understand why the King of the universe should have been born in a stable instead of a nice inn. But they were doing the best they could, and where the hand of God led them, they would follow, even if they didn't understand.